Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Waterhouse, another Sunday at the round table. Today, I have with me Brother Lass and Brother Patrick. We haven't heard from John Arton as yet, but the show will go on and must go on. Brethren, for the past weeks, the news coming out of Jamaica is not that so happy. The finance minister resigned. There's shootings. A soldier man was shot and killed. And a lot is happening in Jamaica. But that is not what we're going to focus on today. Today, we want to look at recent events as relate to the Jamaican diaspora here and abroad. We want to spend this time because if you have been following the news, you know that there is a lot happening within the diaspora movement. Last Saturday, or was it Friday or so? Friday, there was a demonstration in New York City from the One Jamaica Defense League, led by Mr. Wilfred Rattigan. We have also seen other bloggers taking part in the discussion about Mr. Rattigan and the other members of the diaspora. Today, we want to explore some of the issues raised. And we want to do it in such a way that we are not going to make any allegation nor be calling anyone name. We just want to look at the experience, compare that experience with other experience, and what lesson can we learn from it? Or what lesson can we draw from it and share with our brothers and sisters in the diaspora? We are not here to pass blame on anyone or nor pass judgment on anyone. Why? We believe that the diaspora movement is bigger than any one individual. Let me say it again. We believe, Waterhouse Vibes, believe that the diaspora movement is bigger than any one individual. So therefore, we take issue with anyone putting themselves in front of the movement and want to dominate a movement that comprise millions of people. And that is what we want to do. We want to explore, draw a lesson, and what can we learn from it. For us, it is very important because what we see happening in the diaspora today is no different than what happened to Marcus Garvey in the 1920s, where an organization was formed, an internal conflict led to the breakup of that organization, the imprisonment of Marcus Garvey, were trying to start an organization and it just turned into a bickering amongst the members. We want to avoid that. You're, you're somewhat closer to the situation than us because you attempted in Toronto, you attempted to join forces with those in Toronto to organize an organization, a diaspora organization in Canada. What can you tell us? So, what can you tell us about this thing? What are some of the lessons that we should be drawing from that experience?
Mikey, I'm glad
Last,
you started. I'm glad you started with the Garvey organization, because one of the things I'd love for us to start out by saying is debunk one of the premise that some people jumping to, one of the conclusions that some people are jumping to as a result of the conflict or conflicts in the diaspora movement. The issue I want to touch on is the whole issue that some people are saying, using the conflict that is happening to draw the conclusion that Black people cannot organize themselves successfully, and that this is what always happens to Black organizations. I want to say that to, to get rid of that conclusion, that easy reference that people jump to when situations like this arise amongst Black people who are trying to organize themselves. This is not a Black people problem. This is a worldwide problem, and a problem within any organization, Black or white. When you have people from different backgrounds, different political consciousness, different political beliefs coming together to form organizations or to join any kind of movement, it is always possible that conflicts will arise, right? And the problems we face is that how we deal with these problems, how we resolve these problems, right? And how we can overcome the conflicts that arise in the movement and move forward. So I just want to say it's not a Black people problem. It happens amongst all races, all class of people, right? But let's look at what has been happening, what this conflict in the diaspora movement has caused. We see and hear a lot of people expressing doubt about the movement as it is and our ability to carry out some of the things that we say we want to achieve. We see some people being demoralized because this movement offered some kind of hope to a lot of people, right? It offered something that a lot of people felt they could be a part of, right? To bring some good to Jamaica, right? There are a lot of patriotic Jamaicans all over the world who were joining forces to try uplift Jamaica and try to hold the Jamaican government and future Jamaican governments accountable, right? And a lot of these people have become demoralized. Some people have been withdrawing their support for the One Jamaica fund, global fund. Another thing that has been happening is that we see a lot of people who were against the movement are using the conflict to say, we had told you so, right? these people are traitors, and we had told you that it's only a matter of time before they start fighting each other. Right? You have some other bloggers trying to use this conflict to put blame on some politicians in Jamaica that they don't like, trying to bring in wide cross section of people who are not involved in what is happening. Right? We also see members of the movement throwing other members of the movement under the bus. Right? So these are some of the problems that has arisen out of the division that has taken place in the movement. Today, what we want to do is not to contribute to the further weakening and division in the movement. What we will be trying to do is to look at how we can contain, how we can offer some advice, offer some direction, right, to cool the thing down, right, and regain some of that confidence and some of that belief that viewers, ordinary viewers of the many blogs, right, and all the people who have been participating and contributing to the movement, have still offer them some hope that we can still organize ourselves, we can still unite despite the differences and continue to build an organization or a movement that can offer some hope in uplifting our country. One of the first questions I want to start out by asking, other members like Mikey and Patrick, in trying to paint a picture of what has been happening. The question I'd like to ask is, how did we get here in terms of the movement? What is it? Or how did this movement become what it was, that it could offer hope to people and help galvanize people? Because this thing started a couple of years back, right? And it has been gathering some momentum. So just as a starter question, I just want to ask Mikey and Patrick, can you give us a little explanation or background of how they see this thing, how it came together to become what it is, what it was as a movement?
Yeah, I'm away in here.
Patrick, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, Patrick.
Yeah. First of all, I generally I agree with what's been said so far. Right. Um, I just wanna add too that it is never a done deal in terms of divisions and in terms of really butting heads when you're trying to build an organization. Right. And even as you mentioned the you cite the example, Mike, of the early days of Agavism. And, of course, last come up and mention it in terms of movements really having these hiccups, because that's basically what it is. It's like an hiccup. It's a distraction from what you're trying to achieve. And the reason for that, quite simply, is that we come from various backgrounds coming into the movement, so to speak, because in this particular circumstance, what we're talking about is not even a movement. It hasn't even gotten to that stage, right? It is still very much in the embryonic stage, Because when you even register an organization, that don't make it an organization. The registration alone don't make it an organization. It takes way more than that to make it an organization, right? And the other thing, I think the other big myth is that a lot of people believe that by being on these platforms, these social media platforms, and having a viewership or a listenership automatically translate into support. And that's not necessarily the case, right? Because organizations, right, develop based on the swell of support that they get. It develops based on the depth of the organization, right, and the direction of its leadership, right? Now, a lot of this has not clearly been defined or has not been defined sufficiently for us to say wholeheartedly, this is what it is, right? And everybody is after one accord that this is what we are building. This is the direction we are moving in. And this is where the whole differences come about, right? Because some will feel that we need to move in one direction, and somebody else feels that we need to alter that direction and so on. Then it requires, a sit down. It requires a resolution, right, of these various ideas, right? Because this is really what working together is all about. We need everyone. We're not talking about exclusion in a circumstance like this. We're talking about total inclusion, because that's how you get the groundswell, right? That's how you develop, right? When you get added support for what you're trying to achieve, right? So we're not talking about a political party or dealing in one political persuasion or another. What we're dealing with is one principle, and that principle is to really serve the people, right? And behave in a way, develop in a way that move people forward, right? That's when it becomes a movement, right? That's when it becomes a movement. And this takes time to build, right? And it takes, everybody, not only one or two people, because there's no Messiah. There's no Messiah here. There's no Messiah to solve no problems, right? At the Jamaican people. What we have seen coming out of this thing is we have seen all kinds of things coming out, because everything that has been happening so far has been divisive. So it doesn't serve the people in any way, right? The fact that you and I might differ less don't mean that we can't work together.
Exactly.
All right. So this kind of behavior is really infantile, and in fact, is behaving the very way the colonialists has trained us to be divisive and hate each other. That's one of the biggest lessons coming out of colonialism, and we're still in that stage, right? When we need to get out of some of the bad habits, right, and the bad ideas that has been taught to us, right? We need to understand that we have to build a movement of unity. We have to build a movement that serves us. We are our Messiah. The fact that I might live outside of Jamaica, right, don't make me any less Jamaican. That's why we have a diaspora, right? We see coming out of this whole thing again, some people in Jamaica really casting all kinds of aspersions about people in the diaspora and what their personal aim might be and all of that stuff. None of that matters. None of that matters. This is not for some personal benefit, right? This is a mutual benefit, a benefit for all of us, right? The diaspora, the Jamaican diaspora, needs to have a stronger relationship with the Jamaican people, right? And the Jamaican people needs to have a stronger relationship with the Jamaican diaspora, right? Right now, most of what we have seen happening is we have seen a lot of infighting among members of the diaspora, right? And we are yet to have a clear understanding as to why this all came about. Yes, we have heard different ideas and all of that, but we still have no real nothing concrete, right? People go on platforms and they make certain comments and so on, and they make certain attacks and all of that, but we don't know the basis for it. They don't say what the basis is, right? And none of that helps us. It helps nobody.
I
Right?
can hear what you said.
Yeah, I'll hold it there for now.
Answer your question, Las. I am not Las. Las, I'm not sure how it all started. I know in the early part of this year, I and a particular member had a discussion, and after the discussion, you know, we continued the engagement and what have you. And at somewhere, it was decided to establish different organization. The only organizations I know of out of that process was the one Jamaican Legal Defense Fund, right? Call to action and all of that stuff. I wasn't aware of the existence of those organizations, but I saw the works that they are doing, and I said, okay, that is positive because we who live in exile, we need effective representation. Okay, and it's against that background I start to say, okay, let me give them a moral support and suggestions and what have you. Okay. Then I was doing that only to realize that there was some conflict going on amongst the brethren them, and I engage, I listen, I observe, and from that time until this time, I cannot say exactly what are the issues that cause the conflict, nor can I say who is telling a lie or who is telling the truth. All I know is that it's just a bunch of confusion, conflict, and I don't know what's going on. But I know this much. We in the diaspora, we need an effective organization. Okay? We need that. How we go about bringing this into existence, I am not sure. But historically, I know that there was always a diaspora movement here in this country, going right back to the Progressive League and all of that stuff. So it is natural. What is not natural for me is the conflict amongst the brethren them. And the conflict borders on some serious allegation. And I ask myself, how does that benefit us, the diaspora? All the cuss and quarrel and fuss and fight. How does it benefit us? And against that background, I start looking further into the organization, all three organizations. And what come across clear to me, and I say clear to me, and I'm basing this on my experience as a former organizer with the Workers' Party of Jamaica. One, the couscous. only drive away people from around, from coming to the movement. Two, I do not see it possible that you can establish an organization, a diaspora organization, and you're going to tell the Jamaican people, listen, you can't be supporter of the PMP, you can't be supporter of the GLP. To me, that is foolish because politics affect all of us Jamaicans. The PMP and GLP come to dominate our lives. So it's very difficult to build an effective organization and say to the members, you can't be PMP or you can't be supporter of the GLP. What we should be striving for, or what the brothers them should be striving for, is to have an inclusive organization, an organization which have PMP, GLP, no P, and what have you. And that sort of thing is what I think push this issue forward. Because there's no way you can say that to a Jamaican. It makes no sense. If you're talking about building an organization, you have to be tolerant. And tolerant means having members of the GLP, PMP as part of the movement because we are in exile for various reasons. You understand? So, to answer your question, brother, I just think how we got here, I think we got here because of one, a lack of organization, experience. And I say that because in our days back home, working as organizers, there's no way that we're going to bring somebody to our organization and put them in a leadership role without checking out their background. You understand me? That's a basic thing. You have to know who you're inviting into your organization. You have to know who you're going to work with. And you have to do a check on their background, which to me, it doesn't seem that that was done. you know? So I think that is why we are here, because nobody did any background check, although people say they're doing deep dive. Nobody did that. Another point of observation is lack of planning. That is very obvious. How can you have a protest in New York City? You organize a protest in New York City. And in the midst of that protest, there is someone going around a brown paper bag, collecting money, at an event that is sponsored by an organization. Shouldn't be much wiser for the organization carrying out this activity rather than somebody walking around with a brown paper bag collecting money. That show the level of disorganization. You understand me? So I think, to answer your question, I think a lack of organization cause cause us to be here where we are. That's my observation, my take for just now. Last,
Yeah,
what's your thing?
I when I look at, I'm trying to look at how the whole thing come together. And when I look at when I look at how the thing started out, you had different bloggers, different political views, some people supporting the PNP, some people supporting the GLP. You have people, bloggers, who were anti both PNP and GLP. You had different type of bloggers active in the social media space. And all these people with all their different views, right, started gathering there own audience and so forth. And what happened is that over time, we saw a certain trend of people moving closer to each other, mainly because of the people who are viewing these platforms, transferring from one platform to the next, and so forth. And over time, there was like a certain social consciousness developing around certain issues, right? That created a level of unity around certain issues, right? And it grew into more of a movement that Patrick spoke about. People start having like a common view of certain things, a common view of certain political situations in Jamaica, a common view of wanting to participate in the politics of Jamaica and wanting to uplift Jamaica. And that was a positive thing. And the more that happened, the more people came together, right? And it became more of a movement. And what held this thing together was that there was a common feeling that we in the diaspora, right, could make a positive contribution to what is happening in Jamaica, right? And could try to make the governments in Jamaica do better. And the different political views, right, did not matter at that point in time. People were united around holding the government um, accountable and trying to do things to benefit and uplift Jamaica. In order to hold government accountable and uplift Jamaica, it doesn't matter whether you're PNP, it doesn't matter whether you're GLP, it don't matter if you hate both PNP and GLP, or you're a Christian or you're a Rastaman. Everybody can contribute to this cause. And that is where the movement, right, was created around a common feeling that everybody can do something to benefit Jamaica. What happened after that, I believe, is that some people, as the movement start to gel, started to take exception to certain other political views expressed inside the movement. And I think some people started to want to own the movement as it was developing. It is developing into a positive thing and gathering more forces. And what usually happens when you have good things happening is that more people join, and some people want to own the good things that happen. Some people are say, "A me make it happen. A PNP views make it happen." Some people want to say, "A GLP views make it happen." Right? And that is where I believe the thing start to disintegrate. Right? But the truth is, we need everybody to uplift Jamaica. We need everybody to hold a government accountable. Just as though when the thing started, your political views wasn't the significant thing. it need to continue along that line, and people don't divide themselves because them feel say at them I do all the work, or is because they are the celebrity in other thing why the movement is happening. People need to take a more broad-minded approach, right? And facilitate everybody contributing. It can't be a situation where because you feel like say, are you are the leader, are you are the most prominent thing, you don't want nobody else do nothing. Everybody have a part to play in this movement, and everybody can play their part, right? And this movement, as it is, it don't have to die. It does not have to die because difference, difference is not the same as disunity. And I think that's where a lot of people getting confused. We can have a movement with 100 different types of people and unite around a common cause. And that is what all of the people who involved in the conflict and all of the people who are in the audience of these bloggers and personalities, right, who are dividing the movement need to ensure, right? Right now, I feel there's a situation where you have some of the bloggers, some of the platforms, some of the people involved, they are performing for their own little viewership because you have some viewers who they're there for the entertainment. They're there for the political support to a particular person or a particular group of person, and they're not looking at the general picture of the movement and what it can achieve, right? And so these personalities believe that if they play just to those specific audience, they can grow their viewership and all that stuff. But the movement, as Mikey said, it's bigger. It's bigger than any one platform. It's bigger than any one individual, right? And we need to ensure that we draw closer together and not further apart.
Yeah, if I can just weigh in here. Um, just say follow up on what you're saying last. This thing is bigger than any individual, any of the individuals, right? Who at this point or at some point might even want to take credit for starting something. You start something, but then you really start something that is really much bigger than you, right? That's just your role in what you're starting. But it don't mean that you started for it to become your own, right? It means that you're starting it, right, in service, in service to the ones you're really offering that service, right? So the One Jamaica Legal Defense Fund is not even an organization. It's a fund, right? Now, what it means beyond that, we don't know, right? We know that one of the things that it hopes to accomplish is to take on the Jamaican government and maybe others, I don't know, right? In the judicial system, right? And the fund is supposed to be going towards that, right? Now, my personal position on that is that in terms of developing such a fund, that cannot be developed purely on the basis of contribution, right, from supporters. Because when you're talking about taking on a government, right, it's not realistic. It's not realistic. Taking on a government in other courts, right, in a legal way, is gonna require, quite a sum, right? Confronting a government is gonna require quite a sum, right? No small contribution is not gonna be able to sustain that. And I would go further and say that, historically, the lessons are there that this doesn't work, right? But I'll just say that on as far as the OLGADF is concerned right now, right? That's another discussion. That's a discussion for another time. But I'll say further that when it comes to the Jamaican diaspora movement, that's where the movement really is. Because that now is talking about bringing in people across the diaspora. And it's not talking about bringing in the ones who you like. It's talking about bringing in all Jamaicans across the diaspora, right, into this movement, regardless of where you are or who you are, right? Because that's how you build a movement. You build a movement through inclusion. And furthermore, the first step has to be laying out the principle under which this movement is being developed. Because everything you do beyond that is going to be guided by the principle of why you exist. That's really how you build a movement, right? So it's not about no individual. Like I said, there's no Messiah to save anybody, right? It's about saving ourselves, right? When we talk about helping the Jamaican people, it is working along with them, right? It is not a single person burden or a single person task, because various people will have all kinds of contributions to make. Some people might only be able to make a contribution in terms of their perspective. Another one might be able to do a lot of groundwork, right? Everybody will have different tasks to fulfill, right? That's how you build a movement, right? So I'm not even gonna speculate as to what the principle is in this circumstance and what was being achieved through the call to action and all of that. I know that the whole thing, of course, was to just bring some highlight to what's happening in Jamaica, right? And really, having some kind of show of resistance. But beyond that, we don't know anything else, right? That's not a movement. That's not building a movement. And then the next thing you know, you hear that there's some infighting going on. That's not a movement. Gentlemen, it requires for us to really act as grown people, right? Not to act as, some adolescents will figure that we can sort with difference by cussing one another or fighting one another and all of that. No. You save the fight for another day in a different circumstance. Right? You save that fight for fighting with the government, right? For work along with us, for develop what needs to be developed in Jamaica. Because at some stages it won't even be a fight with the government, because we're not like I said, we're not politicians here, right? And that is why we're not following no political persuasion. Yes, we have our own personal political persuasion, but that's not what's on the table. That's not what is to be put on the table, right? Because GLP don't suffer differently from PNP. PNP don't suffer differently from GLP, right? When the government policy fail, it fail both PNP and GLP. When the government is corrupt, it affects both PNP and GLP.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mikey.
I think there is conf- I think there is confusion, lot of confusion. And I'm gonna share something with the panel. In 2005, I was in Jamaica, and so happened that my good friend Delano Franklin was working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He was junior minister, and he and I had a discussion along the line what he was suggesting that I get involved in the diaspora movement that he was putting together. Because where I'm at, he want me to get involved. I said, well, brother, man, I don't want to get back too involved with the PMP politics. And he was encouraging. I say that to remind the audience that this diaspora movement started long before this group of gentlemen who now involved with this cuscus. The diaspora movement, the effort to organize the diaspora started long before these gentlemen. And Delano Franklin was the lead person in that effort. One of the confusion that we are experiencing is there's no distinction between the different organizations. For example, Friday there was a protest in New York City. Who sponsored that program? Was it the Call for Action or the One Jamaica Defense League? There was no distinction. Okay? I am saying that because of this confusion, there wasn't a clear distinction as to who is going to do what, when, and where, and why. There wasn't that sort of distinction. And that is what is driving this problem. And I say problem because from what I gather, listening to the brothers them on the YouTube and the sisters on YouTube, I think it's going to take some time. As one individual said to me, just let the dirt settle. But while that is happening, who is going to step up? Because regardless of what one might think and say about Wilfred Rattigan, Rattigan stand up, and he started an organization called the One Jamaica Defense League. Mr. Francis and Herb started their own thing. Then it seems that everybody just come together and decide to work without any clear understanding as to who is going to get credit, who is going to do that, and what have you. And that always result in organizational confusion. You know, as them say, Jamaican people say, too much rat never dig a good hole yet. So That I think is a weakness in what the brothers attempted. They didn't sit down and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to be done. This is the accountable. This is the resource. They didn't, and I think in establishing an organization, that is a cardinal principle that you must pay attention to. Getting everyone on the same page, iron out, talking through the disagreements, so that you have a united force. And it doesn't seem that this was happening. Okay,
Okay.
and the result is, go ahead,
Yeah.
go ahead, lass.
I kind of have a slightly different view from what you're saying, because the whole issue is about
Go ahead once. Yeah.
the whole issue is about the disunity that is taking place. I don't see the thing as about who should get credit for doing what in the movement. What I saw was as a problem is that you have people playing up the situations that disunite people, right? For example,
Agree,
I
agree.
hear I hear people on a certain platform addressing other members as labor rights and informers, and saying how much they are manlyites and they are PNP. That is playing up differences, which is unnecessary, because this is when people came to this movement. You had people who were PNP, people who were JLP, people who were non-party, people who are religious, and everybody contributed. It does not mean that one person have to give up them PNP-ism or them manly height identification, or another set of person must give up them GLP-ism or them religious identification in order to participate in this movement. It is a non-issue, right? And a lot of people, well, some people are trying to play up these differences, right? And that is what is causing a problem in the movement, right? As I said, sometimes when people see things becoming successful, they want to own it, and own it to them political persuasion, right? Or own it to them religious persuasion. But it's not about no particular section of the movement owning the thing. The thing is for everybody, and everybody own a piece of it. So there's no need for somebody to come on a platform and say that them are PNP, implying that is a PNP thing, and a PNP for get credit for whatever happens. Or another set of people for come and say it's a GLP thing, so GLP for get credit. Everybody is getting credit, because everybody have to lift a little bit to
But
contribute to the overall
But
movement. Yeah.
yeah, Mike, you have to say that I have a totally different take from what you just explained in terms of the background to this thing, right? And I would want to say that to begin, that in terms of developing a diaspora movement, it is something I think that goes back way beyond our good brother Delano, right? This thing, I would even want to say that here's one of the things. Here's one of the things about it, right? My understanding is that the first time we really see anything close to what we're trying to build was with the Garvey movement, right? A lot of what we're trying to do, that idea kind of came out of the Garvey movement, right? It's just that the Garvey movement was much broader than a Jamaican diaspora. It was it was an African diaspora. That's basically what that was. Africans outside Africa, of which we are a part. And even with our Jamaican diaspora movement, at some stage, it's gonna become akin to the African diaspora in that same way as well. Because the development of a Jamaican diaspora have tremendous benefit for us as a people, if done properly. Tremendous benefit. It's something that will be radically life-changing if done properly. So that's the first point I want to make, that this goes back beyond Delano, but to come closer to the conflict that we're really looking at right now. What I think happened, and based on the bits and pieces that I've been able to gather, is that there was, people who were involved at some stage in an earlier diaspora movement. Because that piece which you're talking about with Delano, right? Trying to get it started and all of that, right? That translated to the GLP government trying to take hold of it, right? That is this current GLP government trying to take hold of it, right, and direct the diaspora, bring the diaspora movement under their direction. And this is where the resistance started. Because, of course, the feeling was that, one, the GLP government was a corrupt government and totally self-seeking. Or it is a corrupt government and totally self-seeking, one. And then secondly, the government of Jamaica cannot take responsibility for a diaspora movement, because that's not what a diaspora movement is about. Diaspora movement is about members of the Jamaican public that lives outside of Jamaica, right? So it has to be Jamaicans outside of Jamaica, right, taking on the responsibility of building a diaspora movement. Because that's what diaspora means, right? And this is where it all started. This is what led to the whole idea of registering it, right? As Rattigan tried to outline on his show and all of that. And in that whole process, what happened as well is that there were people who were in the earlier stages of the diaspora movement developing, people like Dr. Francis, right? And another brother that I hear them mention, Patrick is his first name. I don't remember his last name, right? Because he gave a pretty good outline as to what it was like in terms of structure back in the earlier days, right? So there was some idea to it. There was something to it, which they just needed to really restructure and really, develop on that. Right? Now, what happened was that after they started the whole process of registration, and they're registering it in Florida first, I think, and then I guess a couple other places, right? Then everything got to an explosion when we hear about the Canadian registration, or what was to become the Canadian registration. And this is when things fall apart, right? Because at that stage, we heard that, okay, Rattigan declared that he was no longer a part of that movement, and that had been the case from some months before. At the same time, the call to action group came about to really be responsible for the demonstrations and so on, right? And the first demonstration was the one in Florida. The next one was the one in New York, then followed by the one in DC and so on, right? And based on how I understand it, Dr. Francis was responsible for Florida. Rattigan was responsible for New York. Herb was responsible for DC, right? And as far as I see, everything went well all along. Only to hear later on that, Rattigan has not been a part of it for some time, and that goes back even before the DC one and all of that, which is really ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Because how can all of this be happening and nobody knows? Right? Nobody knows. Why is there a problem with registering it in Canada? We had a guest on this show, right, some weeks ago, who explained, right, in part, that one of the things about it is that the registration process in Florida is a little different from the registration process in the US. And I would imagine that if you were to go even further, right, you might find that the registration in Britain may be a little different from here as well in the US. So there are all kinds of dynamics that became involved, which we're not fully understanding. And at the same time, we're not getting a clear explanation as to what lead to the differences and what these differences were. Right? So I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm telling it the very way in which I get it from what's being said. Right? I'm not making up this thing. These are the things that are here, and there's a lot that we just don't hear. And we are left to formulate our own ideas as to what is behind it and all of that, because nobody is really saying what it is clearly. They're hopping from platform to platform to platform. What's the objective of all of that? I have no idea. But that's not building the movement, and that's not resolving anything. It's totally senseless. These gentlemen need to act responsibly. Get together and let's sort this thing out. That is how it works.
Yeah, and the whole question of the
Why should they?
Delano. Go ahead, Mikey. What were you saying, Mikey?
No, I'm asking Patrick, why should they get together?
To
I was
resolve all
asking
of this.
Patrick,
To
why should
resolve
they
all of
get
this.
together? He said these gentlemen resolve all.
The gentlemen that the whole conflict surround,
And
right? We all need to get together and resolve this thing. That's what I'm saying. Because we're not dealing with exclusion, we're dealing with inclusion. We're building a unity. We're building a unified movement.
Is that
That's
do
what
you
I'm saying.
still do you still see an
I
opening for
just
that though,
think that
Patrick?
Huh?
Do you still see an opening for the differences to be resolved and that in that way?
There's always a opening, right? That is left to the willingness of these individuals. It is left to the willingness of these individuals. There's always a opening. That's what I'm saying when I say that,
sup-
a lot of times what happens is that people don't
surprise,
understand.
surprise.
People don't understand what's involved. And they have some crazy ideas about how you build a movement and all of that. Historically, these what we're seeing now is crap, total crap, compared to some of the fights that have happened in the past. Right? And they still get together.
I don't I don't want to call the experience totally crap. Nor do I want to encourage the bridge with them to get together. My view is this: everyone involved should decide what they want to contribute and they go off and build a thing. Because us Jamaican, don't forget, we Jamaican, we are very tribalistic. Tribalist. The politics that we inherit is a tribalized politics.
And how
Mikey,
that
And
help us?
we carry
Mikey,
it out. Whether we in
Mikey,
Jamaica,
Mikey.
go ahead,
I
go
hear what
ahead,
you're
Douse.
saying. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you see, what you were just raising is some of the objectives that was part of this movement to counter. I
I
hear
know.
Rattigan,
I
I
know.
hear Rattigan, I hear Rattigan on previous programs and this platform and other platforms saying, what is it that people need to put them vote to, right? When them vote, they mustn't vote because them mother did vote the way they, and them father and them grandfather, whatever. I support that. But what you are saying now, Mikey, is counter to all that,
Exactly.
and that is not
I'm
gonna get
saying
us.
that
Yeah, yeah, Mikey, let me hear you.
I'm saying that because I listen to these gentlemen carefully, and I don't think that they're going to go back to where they're coming from. No. I
But
listen to Herb and
but
I
that's
listen
not
to
that's not what we're
Dr.
saying.
Francis.
That's not what we're
Both of
saying.
the position is that no, just let me say something. Let me finish, bro. Both gentlemen stated that for anything to go forward, Mr. Rattigan will have to apologize to them. I don't see
Let me say this
Rattigan
again.
doing that.
Let me say this
I
again. Let
don't
me
see
say this
Rattigan
again.
doing that.
Let me say this again because I don't think
And
you understand what I just said.
can you allow me to finish?
Okay.
Can you allow me to finish?
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead. I thought you were
I'm
finished. Go ahead.
saying that if you if you if you're building a house, you have to start with a solid foundation. If you build a house on sand, when the rain come, it'll wash it down. These organizations, these organizations that the conflict is around, they were not built on solid foundation. That is one of the weakness. That is one of the mistakes. and it now play itself
Mikey,
out. That is what is playing itself out. The
starting on a solid
weakness.
foundation is not the responsibility
Go
of
ahead.
one person. Starting on a solid
No, I'm not saying that.
foundation is the responsibility of all of us. Promoting division, right, is not building on a solid foundation. Promoting a culture where say if you're wrong, you can't apologize or you shouldn't apologize is not building on a solid foundation. I'm not talking about Rattigan in particular apologizing, but I'm making a general statement. If you wrong your colleague, if you do wrong to your colleague and you want to continue working with your colleague, what is wrong with apology? What is wrong with an apology? If you respect your colleague, if you respect the people you are
But
struggle with,
nobody know.
what
But,
bring an
but hold
apology
on.
and moving on? If it benefits movement.
But hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Since we want to reduce it to something as trivial as an apology, right? If we want to reduce it to that, let me say this. I think Lass made the point earlier. He made it in a different way, but nonetheless, he made the point, right? This thing is bigger than any individual, right? And in order for this thing to be resolved, before you get to working with the principle, there has to be that willingness on the part of the individual, right? To want to work and be a part of this thing and to move it forward. Because that was the original willingness that I imagine you came with. So if you want to reduce that to a simple apology, nobody needs to ask for an apology. You don't ask for an apology. That's not how it's done. As I said, that is part of the bourgeois way, right? That we have been taught, that you ask for an apology. This thing built out a consciousness. Where if you consciously realize that, okay, you have made the error and you need to apologize, you apologize. That's where the sincerity of it comes from, right? It's not me requesting an apology and you're giving it to me, or you're deciding no, you're not giving it to me. I couldn't care less about that, because if you're gonna apologize to me, I want it to come from somewhere sincere, and that sincerity have to come out of consciousness, right? Because that's the way I
Gentlemen,
understand it works, right? So don't
gentlemen,
trivialize it around apology,
gentlemen. Whenever time
right?
there is a
And
situation,
building different organizations don't help the cause. It's the unification that helps it.
gentlemen, we have a situation where both side is holding to the truth. Each side is holding to the truth and on their side, and in the middle stand the real truth.
Mikey,
So how do
Mikey,
you get?
the people who have
Go
watched
ahead.
these platforms, the people, the audience
Go ahead,
who
lass.
is watching these platforms, they know the truth. It's not about people holding to their truth. That's a screen, a different screen somebody is putting up. It's not about these people holding to their truth. What you think causing the this? I mean, a lot of people becoming so demoralized about what is happening because it is played out. Whatever happened is played out in front of them. The people see it, and the people are affected by it. Them don't like what go on. Them never expect it of the people who say they are leaders
True.
in this movement, right? So it's not like one person present
True.
a thing and the next person that present a thing and both of them true. Both of them is not true. The people see what is happening. The people who are watching on the various
No,
platforms,
but
they see and they are disappointed, right? And we are saying, right, it is important that some people step back from them ego, step back from them political positions where them things sacred and them can't move away from. Step back from them objective where them have to grow them influence and grow them platforms and come in at the space where the movement that we say we're trying to build to help and to contribute to the country where we say we love, right? And to help the people in Jamaica make the right demands on the government in Jamaica. When that we step back from all of those positions and put that back on the forefront, right? And make that the central issue, right? And not the personal, the ego tripping and all of those things.
but the issue,
These people have to
but the
move
issue
back
last.
away, move away from those things in order to solve this thing.
Absolutely.
Right? If they don't move away from
The
this thing, it is doomed, Mikey. Trust me.
the child.
Yeah, Mikey.
But hear me, my brother. Listen to me. The challenge we face is this: both side, both side claim the truth on their side, regardless of what the people might think. Both sides claim the truth on their side, and we are only getting what they want us to hear. I do not think we have a full understanding as to what caused the disagreement. We are
Mikey.
just getting it from the different individuals, their side of the story.
but
Let me
Mikey,
finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
no, you're repeating
We are
yourself, and
getting
that's why
their
I want to
side of the
stop
story.
you.
Can you allow me to finish?
It's a particular reason why I want to stop you right there.
Can you
Right?
allow me to finish, bro? Allow me to finish, bro. I allow you to finish. Allow me to finish. The point I'm making is that where you have stubborn folks all to their truth, it's gonna take some time before they move. They have to see the weakness in their argument and decide to move. You and I can't change it. We can say this need to happen, that need to happen. But the reality is
But
both sides hold to the truth. If you listen to
nobody's
them,
disagreeing with you on that, and
well, I
you've
listen
said
to.
all of that, and that's what I'm saying to you. You're basically repeating yourself. But what is clear is that I don't think you understand what last just said, right?
Can you?
Because what happened is that we hear you clearly, and we understand quite clearly what you're saying. Just that we are saying something different, right? And the difference is, as last clearly pointed out, and I said it earlier, right? Because everything that is being said right now is a repeat, because we said it earlier, right? When last mentioned about everybody have to set aside them difference, set aside them political persuasion, set aside them ego and all of that. That is what we're speaking to. That very thing that you just mentioned, right? It's not about people who have them platform and have them following and all of that. We're not about that. It can't be about that. The movement cannot be about that. It's bigger than that. Because as I said earlier on too, right? Followers on a platform don't translate into support. It don't translate into support. Right? So
I want to
qualitatively,
ask you a question, Mikey. I want to ask
Go
you a
ahead,
question,
lads.
Mikey. What is there a way
Go
out
ahead.
of this situation? Is there a way out of this situation?
Let me give you my honest opinion. There is a way, but before that is possible, these gentlemen will have to come to their senses. They have to come to the reality that what they are doing, the path that they're on, is destructive. They have to come to that.
They
You
who?
said
And
that.
say, because I have talked with all of the individuals in. Patrick, let me finish what I'm saying, bro.
Go ahead. I'm not stopping you.
I've talked with all the individuals, and the impression I have from my reasoning with these gentlemen, one, they're pointing finger at each other. Two, there doesn't seem like an effort towards a compromise is possible. So, as one as one of the participants in the conflict said to me, Mike, this can only change when the dust settled. How long? I'm not sure, but this is what is being said. That yes, the men need to come together, but that will only come after the dust is settled. Because a lot of things, a lot of earth is on both sides. Some serious allegation on both sides.
Mikey, in every
You
conflict,
know. So
in every,
I am
or
not.
finish,
Go ahead,
finish.
last.
In every conflict, right? In every conflict, you have hurt. People going to feel hurt, right? But, and in order to reach some form of resolution, people have to give up something to reach a resolution. And if anybody go and tell me that the way out of this conflict is to wait until the dust settles, what dust them talking about? Is the dust, does the dust mean that you're going to have people running around on platforms explaining and explaining their individual positions? Does it mean that there's a continuation of people throwing each other under the bus? Is that the dust that has to settle? Or is it that the people who look to these people for leadership and who watch these platforms are going to demand from these people a different way of thinking and a different way of behaving, instead of waiting until somebody in their own mind thinks that the dust settle enough for them individually feel satisfied to come forward and present something and say, well, yeah, me satisfied now.
Or decide to
Remember,
apologize.
remember Grenada. Remember Grenada.
Classic
This
example.
Grenada is the perfect example of the destruction that this kind of behavior can lead to, Mikey.
Perfect
Grenada
example.
started, Grenada started in the same way. Remember the New Jewel movement. The New Jewel movement came together in the same way that this movement is coming together, right? And they made a lot of progress. They achieved state power in Grenada and were building institutions in the country for help the people. A lot of those people in the New Jewel movement were just like us. Some of them were living abroad and contributing to the political discourse in them country. Same way, right? Unifying with the people on the ground, and they made progress. But what happened after that? This same very thing. So some sections of the New Jewel movement wanted all the credit, wanted all the control. They wanted to say that is their ideology, is their thinking that brought the progress to Grenada,
Divisive powers
right?
always at work.
That is what happens when people see progress coming in organization sometimes. They want
Yeah,
to take all the credit for it. Them want to say, it's my political view make this thing work. It's my organizational skill make this work. And them discount everybody else. Everybody else a labor right. Everybody else a informer.
yeah.
You understand? Everybody else don't matter. And this we need to address, Mikey. And this we need to, and the people who are watching need to demand from the people who them watching. As Patrick said, this is not about no Messiah. It's not about building no Jesus Christ or no John the Baptist. It is about everybody working together and contributing however them can contribute to make this thing work. It's bigger than a man afraid to make an apology, for bring back unity in the thing.
Set aside the ego.
Set aside your ego. Set aside the cheering party
Last,
where your platform viewers provide, because I think that is what a lot of people play into, the cheering party where some of the platform viewers providing them with. But just as Grenada, where you had some people supporting the courts and all
la,
them stuff, and the thing ended in destruction, we need to avoid the destruction of this movement.
last. I don't know why you point to Grenada when we have the Workers' Party experience that we can point to. Albeit, what I'm saying is that the womb just now is raw, and these gentlemen must have the time to work through their issues.
They must have
You
the time,
understand
Mikey.
me?
They must make the time.
Nobody, no
They
one,
must make the
none of
time.
them.
Mikey, it's not about having the time.
Yeah, they must make the time.
These people,
Well,
whoever you're talking
no,
about,
no,
present themselves,
no. Hear me,
present
Bridget.
themselves
No,
as leaders
last,
in
let me
this
finish.
thing.
Last. What I want,
Yeah, go ahead.
last. In Grenada, the forces that was fighting amongst themselves had state power. They had state power. They could have enforced anything that they want. They had state power.
Mikey,
You and I
that's not what Lass is saying.
and Patrick in the
When Lass
diaspora
cite
and with all
the
these names.
Grenadian
One
example,
thing
that's
we
not
have
what
is
he wants you to focus on.
last
Just understand what's being said, right? That is the key, right? Not the fact that they had state power.
Patrick, are you going to allow me to finish or are you just going to
No, but like
just
I said, we keep repeating
interrupt me
ourselves
each time?
over and over
I'm
and
making
over, and
my
it's clear that you're
contribution.
not understanding what's going on.
Patrick, 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 Pa- Patrick, Patrick. This platform, right, is a free speech platform. I'm begging you, please treat me the way I treat you. When you're talking, I let you finish before I involved. So allow me to finish what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's all well and good for us to say this should be done, that should be done. It's all well and good. But the reality, we are in no position to influence these individuals as to which way they want to go. Everything that we talk about depends on the action of those men. If they want to come together, they will have to take that initiative. They have to come to the reality, and nothing is going to happen before the time. Yes, they might, next 2 weeks, they might come together or what have you. But from where I sit, they need to just cool out to the time. Cool out. If I'm advising them, my advice to them is just cool out for the time being. Avoid all the finger pointing and let the dirt settle, the dust settle. Because remember this, all of these men were working together before we got involved. Okay? It is just now that we are realizing that certain things wasn't in place. For example, the background check of the individuals. I'm pretty much sure with what is being said now, there are regrets among certain quarters that, listen, I exposed myself to this one, I brought this one too close to me and whatever. You have to understand it now. You guys touch on the ego, but where there's no vision, the people perish. And that is what happened. These guys went into this effort without a vision. They had no vision. They had no idea of organizational practices. And they're trying to create something which is very impossible. There's no way you can create an organization of Jamaican and you do not have representatives from the political parties involved. There's no way, it's not possible in Jamaica. You understand me? So I'm just trying to temper the brothers that listen. If you listen to what's been said on the Facebook and YouTube and what have you, both sides hold to truth on their side. That's all I'm saying.
So, Mikey, what's the way forward?
Patrick, you
That's
want
what
to say
I'm trying to
something?
say. What's the
Yeah,
way
yeah, yeah. I
forward?
want to say something on that. Mikey, here's what I want you to understand.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm trying to get you to understand. Let me put it that way. What all of what you just said just now, we have no difference about that. None of us right here have any difference about what you just said. All I'm saying to you is that we have said that repeatedly in one way or the other, right? Among the three of us right here, we have said that, right? The point I'm trying to put across to you is that, right, where you're looking at it as if here we are having a difference. It's not a difference because we are not saying, neither Las nor myself is saying, right, that we want to influence how, when they do it and all of that. We're not trying to determine anything. We can't determine. Like you said, right, putting it your way, like you said, they are sitting around thinking about this thing, right, and watch the dust settle. I wouldn't quite put it that way. Las wouldn't quite put it that way. But the way I put it is, yes, they have to come to their own consciousness about this. And I said it when I mentioned about the whole thing about apology, right? When I said that they have to come to their own realization that this is bigger than me, right? I have to understand that. And the only way I can understand that is by setting the ego aside. right? By understanding, as the old Jamaican saying goes, while the grass are grow, the ass are starve. Right? We have to think about the people. We have to think about the work that could be done in the meantime. What is setting back all of that? It's the petty differences.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Can I ask a question? In your estimation, which one of the individuals you think will put aside your ego?
No, that's not nonsense question, Mikey.
Which one you think
Total,
is
Why
that
would
totally,
you
at
ask such a
stake?
question?
totally,
That why would you ask such a question, Mikey? We are
totally.
not trying to create no more division
We're not
amongst
making no judgment.
and create no judgment. That's not what we are here for. We
No.
are here to point to a solution. We're talking about everybody. We are talking about everybody.
Okay.
It's
Or you
not
think
about
that they're
judgment.
at the stage now where the ego can be pushed?
That's how you put aside the ego. Stop the
I think it's
judgment.
going to be difficult.
We're not judging.
I think it's going
None
to
at
be
all.
difficult. I don't see none of the men. No, I am saying that I do not see any of them putting aside their ego.
And I
But
understand
but
that. I understand that.
whether we see them or not, we are saying this is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Whether them see it or not, we are saying
Okay, okay.
this is the demand that I would be making of these guys. That them set them ego aside,
Yes.
right?
The hope
Okay.
is for them to see it sooner rather than later.
I am not here to point no finger at no one individual public and say put you on the spot because no, I'm not trying to continue that kind of division and put somebody under no bus or to no put the spotlight on any one person to say it's your fault or your fault.
Yeah.
Me say it is the duty of everybody involved to have that kind of mindset, right?
Okay.
Because
And I agree with that.
if you
I agree
think,
with that totally.
if you think, listen what me I say now, if everybody involved, me, you, Patrick, everybody involved, thinks that really believes that this thing is bigger than us, we have to start the self-reflection right away.
Right.
Now go wait till say on dust settle.
Yeah, I agree.
That is
That's
my
true.
problem with the dust settling argument.
Yeah.
If you genuinely believe that this movement can achieve great things, and you feel say you might have been a, a stumbling block or a itch or a hump in the road, you need to start the self-reflection right away. Not just look at everybody else, right? But look at yourself and say, what can I do better to make this thing work? Right? And when I address the idea of apology, I'm talking about it from that perspective. I'm not trying to address no one individual, right? But I'm saying if apology, if you make that self-reflection, genuinely make that self-reflection, and you see that an apology can move the thing forward, why would you not do it? If you genuinely believe that this movement can achieve great things and you believe in this movement, you're going to try to remove all the obstacles, pave the way for the movement to have some success, pave the way for people start having some belief in the thing again, right? That is my how me I look on the thing. And that is why I say we need to look and say what it is that can be done to make the movement, give the movement a resurgence, right? And what are the stumbling blocks to the movement going forward? Because as it is right now, the movement could die. That's one possibility. It don't have to. I don't think it is doomed
Well,
at this time.
Gen-
But the other possibility is that
well,
steps are taken that regain the confidence of the people and belief in the movement. And
That's,
well,
I could not have said it
gentlemen.
any better than what you said.
I want to offer some suggestions as to what me think can be done or should be done where
Go
people
ahead. Go ahead.
need are some of the things, right? First of all, me think say what was lacking is respect for each other in the first place. The behavior a lot of these people show that them never did respect them one another. And if some level of respect is brought back into the thing, we can recoup some of the damage that has been done. Right? There need to be greater openness in the way people behave, more transparency, just like we're requesting of government, right? We need the people who are participating in the movement, especially those who people look to as leaders, need to come out and say what your views are, what you think on these issues, debate these things, talk about these things, involve the people on the platforms about these things, and do make your feelings, when you get up in your feelings, you take certain positions where surprise people, and people hear about it after the fact. Those things have to be corrected. Another thing I think need to be corrected is that people involved in the movement have to step back from believing that them a celebrity and is only them one can do certain things inside of the movement. This movement is supposed to be a movement where everybody can contribute, not just because your name big. The guy with no name supposed to be able to contribute too, equally as the guy with the big name. Because we're trying to correct a political system in our country where only recognize the voice of certain people, right? And if we genuinely believe that the little people and the unknown people must have a voice and participate in how our country run, the movement that we are defend must create that space for those people so that them can contribute and feel a part of the movement, and other people can see say them can contribute whatever, however small them contribution is to this movement to make it a success. It's not a movement where I try to shut out nobody because for them contribution, you consider that them contribution not as big as yours. It's not trying to shut out nobody because you feel like say them political views not as smart as your political view. Right? We need to create a movement where everybody, PNP, GLP, held whatever, as long as them are Jamaican and them patriotic in them head space and willing to show them patriotism by helping to lift up Jamaica and helping to show a way that we together can create and influence government action to benefit not just a few Jamaicans, but all Jamaicans. Those are my contribution to what me think necessary and how the movement should move forward to create and influence more people to come on board. It's not too late, right? It's not dead yet. It might be wounded, but it's not yet dead,
If I can add
right?
one
We
thing to what you
still
say,
can move forward.
if I can add one thing to what you say, because I couldn't agree with you anymore. But if I can just add one thing, that we all treat this experience as lessons, because that's precisely what it is.
Yes.
And with lessons, we learn from it and grow. Treat it as lessons.
Definitely, Patrick.
I I agree. I agree. I agree. Lessons, and I hope today we are able to we are able to point out some lessons, put point out some lessons, and I hope the brothers are listening to us because we seriously need a movement in this country. We really need a movement that can give us effective representation. You know, we really need that, and I don't know how we're going to achieve it because the folks who are involved are so set in their belief that they are right and they are wrong and they feel abused, what have you. I'm not sure what three brethren, us three can do to influence that process. All we can do is just hope that they get to that point where they realize that this movement is much bigger than them.
Yeah, you ask a question and you answer it.
I don't see another way out.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
I don't see another way out.
absolutely.
You understand me? Because we all talk with them individually. You know the attitude that we are dealing with, right? You know the attitude we are dealing with, and I am tending towards that position which was suggested to me that I should let the dust settle. And I say that because you saw the demonstration on Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You guys saw the demonstration on Friday.
I saw it.
What's your impression? What's your
There was nobody
impression?
there.
It seems to have been just as I expected it to be.
There was nobody
Because,
there.
because I was at the one that was
And
the one before that, and it was nothing even close. It never even come close to that one. So it was just as I expected it to be. In this kind of atmosphere, that's what's to be expected. But I'm not focused on that. Right? I'm not focused on that. I'm just holding in prayer.
exactly,
But just
it is
like you
just
said, just now, right? Like I say, you ask the question and you answer it. I'm holding to the hope that they come to the realization and do what they need to do.
that's all we can hold to, Patrick. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all. You know, I don't know if it's ego or what have you, but these men are set in their position. They're holding firm to their position, and there's nothing we can do. other than talk. That's all we can do. Talk. You agree?
And but talking, Mikey, we can encourage the people who watch these platforms. Just like how them trying to change how government operate, them have to try and influence how the movement operate. And some of the people who watching us and watching these platforms, they need to think more deeply, not just say them love this man or like this man or the other man or whatever, but think about what we're trying to achieve and how we're going to achieve it. Because as we say, it's not about healing another Messiah and healing another John the Baptist. It is about creating a movement that can bring benefit to everybody, right? And sometimes you have crowds which cheer people to destruction, and people respond to that, right? So that's all I have to say.
Patrick, you have any final words?
Yeah, my final words is, just like I'd said before, this thing is bigger than any one of us. All right. And the only way this job can be done is with all of us working together. Rather than being divisive about working, we'll be more united with working. That's how we build a movement. We build it through unity. And that unity comes through setting your petty differences aside, or setting your ego aside, if you want to call it that. And whatever problems there are, we work through them, resolve them, and we keep moving forward. So that's my 2 cents.
And I'm in agreement with you. I'm I'm in agreement with both of you. The challenge, however, is how do we get these men to move in one direction? Last suggestion is to have the audience on the different platform speak to them, contact them, which is good, a good idea.
Excellent.
I certainly will not. I certainly will not be reaching out to any of the brethren. Them, I've talked, I've listened, and I have my own conclusion. And I'm going to go with the gentleman who said, Mike, let the dust settle. Because all of these guys, men, are stubborn and they are set in their ways. Yeah? That is my observation. So let's keep hope alive that they will see the light of the day and move towards resolving all of this conflict. Because we in the diaspora, we need an effective organization. We do. A lot of Jamaicans in this country are suffering. They are suffering and they voiceless. I know of two brethren right now, is under a bridge them sleep in New York City. You understand me? Jamaican brethren sleep under a bridge and wash car. And there are countless others who need support. So this argument and this unity and whatever, it only distract and take away from what we should be doing in this country. Organizing ourselves to help each other. And of course, hold the Jamaican government accountable. Whichever government, PMP or GLP. On that note, I want to thank both of you, Lass and Patrick, for today's session. To the listeners, I want to thank you very much for staying with us another Sunday. I must appeal to you, the listeners. We need to step up on the likes and the sharing. So please, I'm asking you to like and share this channel. This one is the only place where you're going to find intelligent and lively discussion about issues affecting the Jamaican community at home and abroad. Until next week, stay good. School start. But before that, enjoy the Labor Day celebration. Talk to you next Sunday. Same time, same
Blessings.
place.
Blessings.
Waterhouse vibes. At the round table.
Guys, take
Out.
care.
All right, bro. Thank you
Walk
very
good.
much. Yes, man. You do the same, brother. Thank you very much. Walk
Yeah.
good. Bye.